Sheena says, very quickly, public questions, because there's a lot of relevant questions in here, and I hope our guests will be able to contribute to that. And we're very lucky, actually, to have 4 members of the public to ask questions here today on our live session. So could I ask, first of all, Claire from the Long COVID Advocacy Group to unmute and reveal yourself and ask your question, please? Hi, Claire.
Hi, just say thank you to Sasha for a really great description of long COVID and all the research going on at Yale. So my question is, in the COVID inquiry, we heard that Boris Johnson thought long COVID was, excuse my language, bollocks, and Gulf War syndrome stuff. Why do you think he thought that? And why do these false beliefs exist in some of the highest echelons of power?
Thank you, Claire. Who would like to deal with that one, folks? Is there an answer to that, I wonder? Does anyone have any thoughts?
I think Sasha's going to add something in it, but I do find this really peculiar that this keeps happening. And so often in the dialogue about COVID, long COVID is just not mentioned. And I think one of the issues is it's complex. Sasha's beautifully described how complex it is. But equally, it is 100% real. And the work that Sasha and others are doing is showing that there are real changes to our immunology, to our body, that are causing these symptoms. So it's 100% real. Absolutely. I don't know if Sasha wants to come in.
Sasha, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, I think it's really disturbing that politicians hold these views. I think what's even more disturbing is that we're still having to convince the scientific and medical community that this is also a real phenomenon. And so I think that's the first step, is if we can reach a consensus as a scientific and medical community, then that won't empower these politicians to say statements like that.
Absolutely. Trish, did you want to say something quickly?
Yeah, just to sort of put on my clinical hat, I'm a GP, but I'm working with some people who are running long COVID clinics, both in the community and in hospitals. It's very interesting, the material that Sasha has presented from one of the top labs in the world. But we also need to take on board that right now in clinic, there is no biomarker for long COVID. There's potential biomarkers and there's all sorts of research going on. And it looks like at some point there will be biomarkers. But right now, there is no blood test or X-ray or any other test that you can do to say this person has got a biological condition called long COVID. So no wonder there's a lot of leeway there for the people who don't want to say that this is a real condition. The second thing is that clinically, most people who get acute COVID get better, and then some people don't. So that opens the door to an explanation that says, well, the ones that don't must be imagining what they've got. And we had Eric Topol on a few months back. These are top immunologists, and they're saying there's something going on. But as Sheena said, it's not straightforward. But the other thing I think we need to talk about to come back to the question is, why are some senior politicians saying, well, this just doesn't exist? And the expletive and the kind of really quite aggressive dismissal of this as a possibility. Of course, if long COVID exists, we have something like 1 million people to look at a conservative estimate who are not currently 100%, and many of those are unable to work and they're going to need long-term support. And that's not something that a politician is going to like. So let's just write it off. So I think there is a bit of, there are some reasons why politicians might like to say that this doesn't exist. But I think we've heard some really excellent arguments from Sasha today that if you're looking at the top labs, they are finding abnormalities. And so it's just not scientifically plausible to say this condition is all in the mind. It clearly is not all in the mind.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Anthony.
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, all of us seek evidence-based policy, that we try and collect evidence and come to a consensus and then hope that policy. But most politicians don't do that. They do policy-based evidence. They say, what do we want to do? And at the time, you know, like Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak were desperate to just open everything up. And when people were saying, look, this could be a long-term problem, they didn't want to know it. And so problem with social media is that you can always find some people putting an opposite view, even amongst doctors. And so that's one of the problems. And we're seeing exactly the same with climate change. And that they pick up on the climate skeptics. So we have a real problem with this, that a lot of these conspiracists and disinformation experts are influencing politicians in a way that's damaging.
Agreed. Thanks very much, Anthony. So, Claire, I hope that answers partly your question. I don't know if there is a real answer to that. And I'll just ask Susan now to